Mr. Watts, he has armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
But since my cousin there, no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to
right? Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up to talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If we didn't do a protest, you want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
You know, people ask me all the time, why do you do this? Why do you not retire and read books and write fancy academic papers? And I say, yes, that is also important. But what is more important is that I was given an opportunity to read books in the first place, to engage with ideas because of the sacrifices of ordinary. And so part of scholarship must be given back to the people in the form of public engagement. See myself as a public scholar, what we call an activist scholar or a scholar activist, who's always trying to use the knowledge that is gained from reading books, from observing people in their communities, in their society, and giving them back, in the words of a UC Guyana, giving them back to the people as a political nourishment and by extension, cultural nourishment. That's what I'm about. It's about being that public scholar whose work is not just confined to the classroom, but that classroom is extended to the public space. I'm David Hyde.
So a brand new start, and of all these rivers that shape this land, two mighty ones move like a sculptor's hand. And today those hands across the land, man, they're still landscaping. And there's no doubt we can work it out, there is no escaping. But as the river flows, there are those who will change its passage. So every common man got to understand up and send a message. But put up your hand if you understand now. See how we move it, watch how we groove it, see how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove, the countries don't need the night. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their do. The various smart men and politicians, well, them could come along too, cause we moving with a power and glory. See how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation heading to salvation. The countries don't need the night. Differences there will always be, so that you'll be you and I'll be me. But that's the damn thing, self, that makes this country sweet. Partner, bring your drum, let me start to beat. Don't mind the politics, politicians. Oh, in the politics situation. We don't jamming on them, cause we don't story. So let them fight if they want in this land of the deferred glory. Put up your hand if you understand now. See how we move it, watch how we groove it. See how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. We got cheese and meat tonight. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders. The people don't take in front. Oh yes, the various smart men and politicians can come along if they want. Cause we move it with a power of glory. See how we float in sky. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a roof. We got cheese and meat tonight. Here we go. The river Thames, the Yangtze crew, the river Jordan and the Danube blue, the Mississippi come down to join the fun as the Orinoco walks up the Amazon. And to this Irie Trinidad, well they all discover that this Irie Trinidad going to be the lover. And she hugged them up and said, come on, meet my little sister. And life became the carnival of a brand new culture. But put up your hand if you understand now. See how we move it, watch how we groove it. See how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. We got cheese and meat tonight. Let me now. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their do. But now that we hold in hand, traveling through the promised land, well, them will come along too. Cause we move it with a power of glory. Yeah. See how we float in sky. Oh yes, one lovely nation heading to salvation. We got peace and meet tonight. Thank you very much. God bless you. Good night. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. We got peace and meet tonight. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind bent. And she hugged them up and said, come on, meet my little sister. And life became the carnival of a brand new culture. But put up your hand if you understand now. See how we move it, watch how we groove it. See how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. We got cheese and meat tonight. Hear me now. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their do. But now that we hold in hand, traveling through the promised land, well, them will come along too. Cause we move it with a power of glory. Yeah. See how we float in sky. Oh yes, one lovely nation heading to salvation. We got peace and meet tonight. Thank you very much. God bless you. Good night.
Perfect Michael Runner. They can't please everybody. Huh? Hey, perfect runner. Let's do it.
Thank you very much. I remember growing up under PNM and DLP. right up the PNM and UNC. And these boys can't solve out the problem yet. They can't solve out the problem yet. I personally find it's insulting. Insulting. You see, differences, there will always be. So, partner, you could be you, and I could be me. But then that's the damn thing self that makes this country sweet. Partner, bring your drum. Let me start to beat. Don't mind the politician. I mean the politicky situation. That's why we jamming on them, cause we know the story. So let them fight if they want in the stand of the deeper glory. Oh yeah. See how we move it, watch how we groove it. See how we flow and style. One lovely nation under a groove. We can tease and meet the night. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their duty. The various smart men and politicians, well, them could come along too, because we moving with a power and glory. See how we flow in style, yeah. One lovely nation under a groove. In a peace can be good night. Thank you very much. Good night. God bless.
Good night. That's why I love being a Guyanese. I love being a West Indian. When we Guyanese cannot speak for ourselves, our Caribbean brother or sister will speak for us. When we cannot run as fast as we should, Usain Bolt will run for all of us. When we, as a people, cannot bowl as fast as we want, Michael Holden, Malcolm Marshall, Andy Roberts, and Courtney Ambrose, they bowl for all of us. When our artists are muzzled and cannot sing for the power and the glory, David Rudder sings for all of us. You can be you, me can be me, and that's the damn thing self. We in Guyana want a unity without you and without me. No Afro-Guyanese, no Indo-Guyanese, no Amerindians, no Chinese, Portuguese, just Guyanese. David Rudder is saying to Trinidad and Guyana simultaneously, that is the damn thing self. You can be you, me can be me. I love being West Indian. I love being Guyanese. I love being Black. I love being African. They're all of my identities. On a day like today, when I sat and I think about independence, I think back to 1966, when as a little boy, My auntie took me to LBI, where Prince Philip had come with a train. And we traveled to see Prince Philip, 1966. I remember it well. I was a little boy. Danette, you remember? 1966. And as I reflect on our independence, 57 years later, I ask, where are we as a nation? The politicians, the mind benders on all sides, they will always do their due. But as Rhoda says, whether we like it or not, the Ganges, the big river in Asia, the big river flowing through India, and the Nile of Africa flowing through Egypt, the Ganges meet the Nile. But we haven't worked it out. On a day like today, the Calypsonian speaks for all of us.
When the politics situation, we don't jamming on them cause we know the story. So let them fight if they want in this land of the deeper glory. Put up your hand if you understand now. See how we move it, watch how we groove it. See how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. We got East and we the night. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders. The people that take in front. Oh yes, the various madmen and politicians can come along if they want. Cause we move it with a power of glory. See how we float in sky. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. We got East and the night. Heaven now. The river Thames, the Yangtze crew, the river Jordan and the Danube blue, the Mississippi come down to join the fun as the Orinoco walks up the Amazon. And to this Irie Trinidad where they all discover that this Irie Trinidad going to be their lover. And she hugged them up and said, come on, be my little sister. And life became the carnival of a brand new culture. But push up your hand if you understand now. See how we move it, watch how we groove it. See how we float in style. Oh yes, one lovely nation under a groove. We got East and the night. Hear me now. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their due. But now that we hold in hand, trying to the promised land, let them come along too. Cause we move it with a power of glory. Yeah. See how we float in sky. Oh yes, one lovely nation heading to salvation. We got East and the night. Thank you very much. God bless you. Good night.
Reverend Michael Runner, the country's animal. Huh? Hey, Reverend Runner. Let's do it.
I remember growing up under PNM and DLP, right up to PNM and UNC, and these boys can't sort out the problem yet. They can't sort out the problem yet. I personally find it's insulting. Insulting. You see, differences, there will always be. So, partner, you could be you, and I could be me. But then that's the damn thing self that makes this country sweet. Partner, bring your drum. Let me start to beat. Don't mind the politics, politician. I mean the politics situation. That's why we jamming on them, cause we know the story. So let them fight if they want in the stand up and the word glory. Oh yeah. See how we move it, watch how we groove it. See how we plug and style. One lovely nation under a groove. We got peace on the night. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, they will always do their yeah. The various smart men and politicians, well, them could come along too, because we moving with a power and glory. See how we flow and style, yeah. One lovely nation under a groove. We got peace and good night. Thank you very much. Good night. God bless you.
The Ganges and the Nile. Like David Rudder, I find it insulting that after 57 years, them boys can't get it right. I grew up with the PNC and the PPP. Now it's the APNU and the PPP, and they still can't get it right. I am witnessing for the opposition, not the PNC, the opposition now. And my target is the PPP. But them boys on the other side will hear from me in due course, because they too have messed up. Don't get twisted, some people think David Hines just one side. And I let people go along with that. Sometimes you have to fight on one side of the road because that's what you have. But the road, as Kitchener said, make to walk on Carnival Day. The road. Sometimes you have to fight on one side of the road because that's all you have available. But the road make to walk on Carnival Day. And the boys with the hidden agenda, the politicians on the side that I am fighting on today, don't believe that you're getting a free pass from David Hines. At some point, the finger and the stare will be turned on you, because you all mess up too. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. I think I speak for my guest tonight. Also, The Ganges and the Nile by David Michael Rudder. We are nothing without our art. W.B. Du Bois said, all art is politics. I don't believe in that nonsense, that art just reflects what the people do. I believe that art must do more than that. Art must do as Rudder is doing. setting our sights on this lovely nation. But the lovely nation that Rod is talking about is not a stupid nation in which there are no peoples who came along the Ganges or along the Nile or along the Amazon in the case of our Amerindian brothers and sisters. Rather, is being real. We came here along different rivers. And in this beautiful nation, brother, sister, you must be you. Me must be me. That's the authentic nation. One people, one nation, one destiny is an aspiration. One Guyana is a con. Good evening to all our beautiful Guyanese people and West Indians. I love my West Indian identity. Too. Because when our politicians, their voices are not as loud as they should be, our Calypsonians, the Calypsonian of Trinidad speaks for me and for us. Good evening. Good evening. Somebody say no song. Somebody say no song. I don't know where that is coming from. No song. Good evening, Apostle London.
Greetings to you and to those who are joining as well. Thank you so much for having me here. It's always a pleasure to join you on this platform. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, my brother. And you came just in time to hear a little bit of our brother, Michael Rodderdale, laying out tonight. And I have no question, but reflect on what you heard.
Mm-hmm. Quite interesting. And I think that you would have put it quite aptly. There are so many paths that would have led us to this Caribbean region. And of course, as Guyanese, we're here in South America. And it seems as if some persons are of the view that they're more entitled to a share of this beautiful region, not based on their journey, but apparently based on the thing they've become by association. We have to all realize, and I'm happy that you've chosen that selection to begin what you're doing. We have to realize that although we've had many different roads that would have led us here, we have the right to the land, all of us. We have the right to benefit and to enjoy this land. And they are what I consider to be, according to Kwame Nkrumah, the neo-colonialists. These people are doing an excellent job at causing those who claim to be leaders of this country to lessen the value of some and increase the value of others. And that I would always speak against.
The value gap, Professor Eric Lord of Princeton, the value gap is part of why we don't get it right. Why we don't get it right in Guyana. The value gap. Brother London, you came on just as I was saying that I'm fighting on one side of the road today because that's the side that is open to me. But those on this side of the road that I'm fighting, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. You're not let off the hook because you are guilty too of not getting it right.
Correct.
My brother, speak to that.
I was, and I still am, refreshed to hear you say that. And I'm certainly grateful that you said it, although many will claim that you didn't say it. When injustice raises its head at any point in our society, the just man will speak to that injustice. And it's only fair that we speak to that which is unjust and that which is being perpetrated by a very unjust group of people. It is only fair that we address the plight of our brothers and sisters in this country who are witnessing every day a high-handed, heavy-handed, unconscionable clan function in our society. But at the same time, we cannot say that the the opposition, as I would call them, and they rightly label, the official opposition, that they're doing as much as they should in response to that which we are seeing in our nation. Too much is happening. Too much has happened. And too much, I dare say, shall continue to happen if voices do not multiply, such as yours, to say that this is not just by one side. However, more wrong is being done by one side. It could be because they have the power and the leverage to do it, but yet they do more wrong than the other. And it's only fair that we speak to that which requires a louder voice. Many may form the view that I, and maybe you, some people are sympathetic to the opposition. I cannot in any way be sympathetic to people who pay to lead. What I can be is one who advocates, as you are and others, for there to be better judgment or governance in this country. The whole point of my existence, I believe, in reference to the political sphere in this nation, is to speak to good governance. So when you said what you said, I jumped for joy within me because I know what you're saying. This is about good governance. It's not about which side you take. Guyana has to be governed well for there to be a better tomorrow for you, for me, and for future generations, which seems to be my interest.
Thank you very much, my brother. And sometimes, you have to inject these things because our people, understandably, they tend to see in straight lines.
Yeah.
And as old people say, they don't see what go wrong so and what come wrong so. Politically, we tend to see very straight, and sometimes we can't understand the nuances
Correct.
of where people stand. And you put it so right. You put it so right. History has brought us to this moment, and one side is really squeezing the other side. And as people who are interested in life, we've got to save the life of one side.
Definitely.
But even as we save them, we are saying to them, you are also responsible for this mess. And we'll have to deal with you too.
Correct.
In the fullness of time. Brother Nigel, we come on here tonight, and I don't know if you've seen this story. I don't know if you've seen the story there that I have on the screen, where it says here, attorney writes the Court of Appeal registrar over the AG's attack on the judiciary. And this is one of our attorney friends, Selwyn Peters.
Peters, yes.
Out of Canada. And we have noticed the courts in a couple of weeks giving a couple of rulings that gives us hope that the judicial branch of government, it's trying to regain its independence in the face of vile attacks from those who hold another branch of government. Here is the executive wagging its fingers at the court. A court whose conservative rulings allowed this very government to be installed. Note, I want you all to be listen carefully to me. I am not of the view that the court helped the PPP to come to power. The manner in which the court approached the jurisprudence in those 5 months helped to facilitate regime change and the installation of the PPP. The PPP then expect the court to be servile. And now that the court in the case against Exxon, in this case the other day, against Winston Jordan, in the case against Paul Slow, And in the case filed the other day to try to stop the elections of the Guyana Press Association, our courts are beginning to act independently. And now we see the agenda of the mind benders who are saying, how dare you be independent? We expect you to be servile. Selwyn Peters is calling out the Attorney General. Over to you, Apostle London.
Thank you. And I'm unsurprised by the complaint that has been published here, because this is not an unusual occurrence. This is not an unusual incident, and more so it's an expected incident, because let's not forget that the same Nandlal and others, when Letitia in the I think it's James, the AG for New York, would have raised concerns about what's happening in Guyana, he attacked her too. They attacked Congressman Jeffries. So it's obvious that based on the paradigm of this clan, if you are not doing that which they want or they accept, then they have the right to launch vicious attacks at anyone, including members of the judiciary. That to every Guyanese should be greatly concerning, because it takes an unusual character to decide that if any arm is to rule in a manner that is not pleasing to them, then they can just attack our legal system. This has to be condemned condignly. It has to be condemned, just as they were writing letters to everybody to condemn Ogunse. I'm waiting to see who's going to condemn Anne Nandlal, because this to me is worse than what Ogunse would have said in reference to their viewpoint. Because this is somebody who's attacking the arm or the branch of government that speaks to fairness and justice. This is really the last hope, per se, of Guyanese life, which is in the court for recourse. And if the Attorney General could be accused, and based on what surrounds the matter, he's upset. As this is like a nursery school child here, a preschooler, he's mad he didn't get his way. So let me just say whatever I want to say in reference to what Peters is saying here. And this, to me, my brother, should be greatly concerning and should have letters, as we saw with Ogunse, being written ad nauseum. Because what comes next? Let us not forget that whenever a ruling was made during the election period he spoke to, what I consider to be the disastrous 5 months, and it did not favor the PPP, they were not afraid to express how they felt. So it seems as if only one side of the coin doesn't have the right to say exactly what they want to say. And Guyanese brothers and sisters of all ethnic divides, I want you to pay attention. Whenever there's a clan, a group of people who believe that they have the right to do whatever they want to do, and nobody else has that right, you're speaking to a totalitarian attitude, a very destructive attitude that says we could do what we want and nobody else does what we want. I am certainly going to commend Mr. Peters on this platform for taking that bold step, but I would dare say that I expect within the next few hours for the Bar Association and others, including the Private Sector Commission, all of you wrote and had things to say before, come out now and issue letters of condemnation and concern for this behavior.
Thank you very much, dear Apostle. You know, I this morning I was on Kedaki's show and I started to speak to you, our beautiful audience. And I'm really appealing to you to pay attention to what's happening around you, not just react to events, but try to understand why they're happening and try to preempt the responses of those with whom we tangle. Boots on the ground is like what Peters is doing.
Exactly.
That's what boots on the ground must mean. Peters is a lawyer. He has a bullhorn and he's using it to great effect. They tried to take over the Press Association because there were media houses who wittingly and unwittingly went along with regime change. And now they expect the journalists to turn themselves over to them. And 75 journalists, 75 plus mine multiplied by 2, 150 boots on the ground. Stop them in their tracks. That's what boots on the ground must mean. You don't march and march and march just for the sake of marching. You must use your boots to hit them where it matters. Thank you very much, my brother Selwyn Peters. Thank you very much. Those journalists, I don't want you all to be nice to me or to be nice to the PPP or to the PNC or any party, but you must be nice to justice. And you must be nice to the attempt to take control of all of our country. And that's what I say thanks to Nazima Ragbir and the other 75 multiplied by 2 boots on the ground. Brother London, I know you know something about journalism. What do you make of that brazen attempt to torpedo and take over the Guyana Press Association? Talk to me.
Well, I played football in the USA soccer for the media soccer team for years. So I am very closely knit with or to journalism and journalists. I actually wanted to be a journalist when I was in high school. That was one of my options. But I have long been weary of the fact that it seems as if Guyana is losing the essence, or would have been losing, of what journalism should have been. It seemed to have been waning in reference to the strength of that fraternity. But when I saw the extent to which this regime wanted to go to control what we call the narrative, for those of you who don't know what that means, the stories, how the stories are told and who tells them. I noticed, or I recalled what Jack Dio said to Port Morant, when he said that because of social media and the use of social media and how things were being reported, he told the people at Port Morant that that brought the demise of the PP in 2015. That's what he said. He said, now arm yourselves with, you have to have an Instagram, some social media page, and you must control and push stories so that they would not get away with it. When he said that, I don't think he realizes that Guyana has got quite a few intelligent people therein, smarter than he is, by the way. So the fact that he began to grab so desperately for control of the Guyana Press Association is tied to Port Morant, because Jagdio wants to control the narrative in this country. Jagdio knows the power of independent journalism, which is what I hope would be as a result of this, as you say, boots on the ground effect. Because when I saw Gordon Mosley say this is enough, how could political heads, figures, be contacting journalists to tell them who they should vote for in something as simple as the Guyana Press Association election? Yes. It spoke volumes, and I trust Gordon as one of the premier journalists in this country. He doesn't play with words and reports. And for Gordon Mosley to report something, an issue of that nature, speaks to how wicked and dangerous these people are in reference to the attempt to control the narrative. Now, the question could be asked, why would they go to that extent to control the Guyana Press Association? Because they know, as Jagdio said, the power of information being shared independently. And if there's ever a need for independent journalism in this country, it is now. Because we saw, and I would have heard, I watched some of the meetings, they had some clips they showed of that meeting. And I saw how eager persons were to gain power in that association. Yeah. What I found to be most laughable, though, is when Jagdio held the press conference to say that it speaks to rigging. So even in the press association election, Jagdio can say that there was rigging involved. Why? Because he didn't have his way. Again, I ask you all, what makes Jack Dio so interested? Guyanese, you need to ask yourself the question as well. How often has Irfan Ali held a press conference? He is paid to be president. How often does he sit before the press and speak? These are all images that should be etched in your mind when you think about the plight of this nation. Somebody, not Irfan Ali, wants to control what you see and what you hear. I finally end with this, or say this. When I was standing, and I'm standing at the Mackenzie Sports Club in protest as what's happening here in this town, NCN, the state media that we own, sent a journalist there. When they saw me and they saw the people standing there, they inquired what's happening here. And of course, it was said we're standing in protest because we need to know what is being built at this facility. And we also need to highlight the fact that a members club has been stolen from us. The journalist promised over 1 month ago that they will reach out to me to speak. The state entity who has a crony within it here in Linden refused to ask me, why am I standing in the street to complain about this matter? That is what Jack Dio wants, to control people in the media so you would never know across this nation what's happening to us. And I'm certainly, again, maybe tonight's the night for me to applaud people. Selwyn Peters, you deserve kudos. And to those 75 who said, no, you are not going to control how we function, you, I applaud highly, because you showed Jack Dio that he's not going to have his way. Because if he had his way, I promise you, we would be headed to North Korea's position in the not too distant future.
Thank you, my brother. This morning I said that Nazima Ragbir is a shining star. Tonight I say that my brother Selwyn Peters is a shining star. And I think I'm calling out these persons not to engage in the politics of personality.
Correct.
But again, to say that there are people in our country with voices. Where Brother London and I came from, our voices should be muzzled. But the force of history has floated us to the top. And there are those who are not fortunate to float to the top as we have. We have gotten to the top by reading books. Not because we could read better, because we had access to books that others who we sat in benches and desks at school with didn't have that opportunity. And because we have had the opportunity to read books and to travel far away from Guyana, we have voices that are a little bit louder and clearer. And we are using our voices not to pull ourselves out of the water, but to stay floating as we lift our brothers and sisters to the surface. That's what struggle is about. And that is why I applaud that young lady who has put her life on the line.
Definitely.
She could have said, I've had enough of it. Let me go home to my child. Raise my little boy. Because she has a little boy. But she chose to stand up in a dangerous place for justice. Selwyn Peters in Canada. He could throw back and said, let me be a nice Canadian boy. But he's reached across the waters to intervene on behalf of his country. Thank you very much, Nazima. Thank you very much, Selwyn, for what you have done for this moment. Because it's a moment that is pregnant with hope for our country. That we are clutching our way back from the disaster of 2020. I say again, the 2025 months may have had rigged elections inside and all of that, but those 5 months were not about elections.
No.
Speak to me, my brother. Speak to me.
They,
You have the pulpit.
they were certainly not about elections. The potency of social media and almost immediate releases of information and images would have caused people who can sit and analyze things to see that those 5 months would have been about who is going to be put in a position to do the bidding of those who want to control this nation at the peril of the average Guyanese. 2 years hence, just about 3 years in, we are seeing, and more voices are saying, how could we have so much money in reference to oil wealth and be suffering the way we are? It's because of those 5 months. It's because somebody realized, the clan, I call them, the Sarah Ann Lynch's and the Canadian High Commissioner, Chatterjee, all y'all, Gregory Quinn and every one of you, they saw clearly that the best people to have in position of power now that the oil is flowing and money is coming is this clan, the uncaring, unconscionable, dictatorial bunch who believe with all of their hearts that they can just drip a few little droppings of soup here and there and they will control this entire society. The bunch who didn't care about law, who didn't care about propriety. And how did we find that out? Because when the petitions were filed by APNU AFC, the same set who said that they have evidence of rigging and all of that couldn't be found. Let's not forget Hanuman, who said that he has 700, I think, witnesses to prove, to come and testify that Mingo would have been rigging. To this day, we can't hear 10 of them speaking in the court of law. He promised the judge that in 1 month he'll have 700 witnesses with the statements. Where are they? That's the kind of people we're dealing with. So the 5 months were not about elections. It was about positioning for control and for opportunities. Let's not forget that after those 5 months, we're now seeing a situation in our country whereby the average Guyanese would soon be unable to rent a piece of land or a house, I should say, in Georgetown. Within a few months, a plot of land in the East Bank is being sold for $2 or so million US for 1 acre. Which Guyanese can afford that? Which public servant can afford that? Within a few months, you're seeing that what they call expatriates are having a heyday. And within a few months or days, you saw Sarah Ann Lynch being apparently Irfan Ali's guardian or babysitter. I have never seen an ambassador being so present as if she has to guide this boy around the affairs of this nation. Something is wrong, and something was glaringly wrong over those 5 months. Today, we're beginning to see even clearer what the 5 months were about. And this is not going to ease or end lightly without boots being on the ground, indeed, in a different format, because Jagdio has told all of us what we've been saying a long time ago. They dread social media. I've said this ad nauseum. These people are afraid of social media because they know they have no control over it. You can't send police to control my phone. You can't send police to control my Facebook account. They can monitor it, but you cannot just wantonly decide you're going to attack it. And that is the problem. They know that with the phones and devices in our hands, we can deal with them on any given day, at any given time, and more so in any weather. That they fear the most. So the 5 months that we sat back and saw some rulings that I could not believe. I said, and that's what I think people began to know me or become familiar with my presence, and I had to do it, that I grieve for Justice Bishop and I think it's Peter Britton, both deceased. But these men who would have sat and taught me law courses in the University of Guyana, I grieve at the memory of these men, because I know Justice Bishop would have been fuming had he heard what members of the court said at that time and how they chose to interpret what I consider to be a basic law. These things are taught at novice level in law school.
Yes.
How can you have, sorry for going here.
No,
How
keep
can
going. Keep
how-
going.
thank you. How can you have something as simple as saying, listen, if ever you're going to have an issue in reference to elections and you want to have it resolved, there's something called a petition that you file. That is basic. It's written in law. How can we then say that any judge could be comfortable with saying, bypass that phase and do something else? How can we be comfortable with people saying to you that in the absence of the parliament, the legislative arm of this country, you can make a law to govern electoral process and a judge can accept that? Oh, come on. Let's be fair to common sense here. How can we accept? How can we even remotely accept that a body who knows about validation and validating votes can reduce itself to saying that votes are valid as long as you see a sheet of paper in front of you with a tick? The 5 months showed us that our nation has been transformed into that which is unhealthy for the common man, which brings us to where we are today.
Thank you very much, my brother. Sometimes, political analysis from a real independent position is a very lonely thing to do because nobody seems to be echoing what you're saying. To this day, you open the newspapers and you talk about the attempt to rig an election.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder, am I crazy or what? Shadow, am I ugly or what? Am I bad lucky or what? They didn't give him the crown for years, and then he finally said, "What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?"
Don't you get that feeling sometimes, my brother? What's wrong?
I do. I did get that feeling during the 5 months, and I'm happy we can raise it now. Because I was saying, can people not see through this? I mean, how can I show up in a counter and Nandlal's reasoning? How can I show up to say, listen, I'm Nigel London. I'm here to vote. And somebody says, okay, prove it. I don't have to prove it. Just give me this ballot paper and I'll put an X and that's it. Give me the ballot and I'll just mark it and then say that's valid. And the CCJ said that's valid. You don't have to prove identity. And if I don't have any proof of identity, nobody has to swear on my behalf. No, that doesn't matter. Just put a tick in it and that's all. And I was wondering, am I okay? As Shadow said, what's wrong with me? Something has to be wrong with me because I couldn't reason the way they were reasoning during this whole process. But I'm happy to know that time never fails to prove that which should be proven.
Time is longer than twine as we grow up as little boys and girls. Hearing, my brother, I know that you know what all we know and sometimes can't see. But when you see the government of your country appealing a ruling by the courts of its own country, trying to uphold the laws of its own country, what's wrong with me? Am I ugly or what? Am I bad lucky or what? Am I crazy or what?
Well, as we say, maybe bad lucky to be Guyanese at this time in reference to what we have to deal with in leadership. The only comfort I got is that I was not surprised by the actions. And I would maybe have been surprised if they stood up to Exxon. But again, who in this country, being an independent thinker, can see that this is normal behavior? When a judge in Justice Kissoon, again, he has to be highlighted. So we have Selwyn Peters, Nazima Ragabir, and Justice Kissoon. That ruling was so powerful. And the verbiage used was so intense when he said that Exxon would have been disingenuous in his conduct. Those terms from a judge had me smiling because he said, at least we have hope in this country. And I think he began to turn the tide even stronger when he said that the behavior is disingenuous You know better. You know that if you're going to be engaged in such a dangerous operation potentially, that there should be unlimited insurance. I would like to think that the Attorney General would say that the learned judge would have ruled well and in the interest of future generations of our country. And as a result, we're going to therefore accept that decision and abide by the same. No, because we have to remember the 5 months. And whoever put you there for over that period of time, you have to bow to them, even at the expense of your reputation. To think again, this is basic common sense, not even law. We do not know. How can we say that $2 billion would be enough in this day and age to deal with an oil spill, and we don't know the magnitude of that spill?
Spill, yes.
BP spill cost up until today $71 or so billion over 10 years. $71 billion. Our people are saying that $2 billion is on the table and that's enough. Exxon Valdez spill cost way back in the 1980s $2 or $3 billion. And look at what we're saying here today. We're going to fight against Justice Kissoon. Or they're saying they'll fight against Justice Kissoon's ruling to the benefit of who?
Those who installed them in power.
That's my
my brother Nigel, here turning it on here tonight. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with it? That's what we're asking ourselves.
When I sing for this judges, it's plenty loads of days. I want an opinion. I am asking a question. What's wrong with me? We don't know. 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 Am I ugly or what? Bad luck or what? I cause death or what? Do I smell like cigarette or what? What's wrong with me? We don't know. What's wrong with me? We don't know. What's wrong with me? We don't know. What's wrong with me? I ran away from home when I was little. Night and day I roam. I seen plenty trouble. Many, many days I had nothing to buy. No place to rest my head when I tired in the night. What's wrong with me? We don't know. 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 Am I ugly or what? Bad luck or what? I have rabies or what? Do I eat babies or what? Tell me, what's wrong with me?
I love it. I love it. I got rabies or what?
Digging the politician without calling his name. Do I eat babies or what?
Right.
We got the news, my brother, that another magistrate, another law officer threw out the case against Winston Jordan yesterday.
Yes.
Basic again. You put courses at the University of Guyana. Peter Britton was my lawyer when I was a little teenager political activist. Okay. He was my lawyer, and I know he knew the basics.
Yes.
The case is clear. The man is not a public officer in the same way as a public servant. a permanent secretary is. Over to you, Nigel London.
Yet again, as you rightly said, and it seems as if there is a spiraling downward, that is, of the political regime, the PPP, that is, and it's unfortunate in their mind, but it's fortunate for us as Guyanese to see that the courts are standing today resolutely to say that you are going to prove your case regardless of what you think your reputation is. Yes. And that is what's hurting them, because the power of the wealth that they handle seems to be getting to their heads, and they believe they can just do what they want and throw people before the courts and get away with it. But in the case of Jordan as well, the question is asked, and I spoke to this, I'm happy that you're raising it. I asked the question, differentiate between Jordan and the one Brassington.
Yes.
Or Ashley Singh. Do it for me, please. Please. And not up until today, no one has done it. Tell me the difference. Because did Brassington not have to go before the court to answer for selling a plot of land below the value? Yes. Okay. If you accuse Jordan of doing the same thing, how can you then be angry at Jordan's ruling, but be happy at another side? It means you're an unjust individual in how you process. Do they have the legal right to do it? Nandalal again said that in Brassington's case, it was may be considered just a little bad judgment, but it's not illegal. That's what he said. Yeah. So what is Jordan's case then? What makes Jordan's case? So just a magistrate, I think it's Daly, would have done the right thing.
Yes.
Done the sensible thing. More than that, he said that you have to prove the case against the person. That's United Nations declaration we're dealing with in terms of basic human rights. If you want to accuse me of something, it's your burden to prove it. If you cannot prove it, then the person has to be free to go. Where's the complaint? The state, based on how they were dealing with Jordan's matter, I felt they had more than enough evidence how they were speaking to nail him. Now look at what we're ending up with again. So we have Paul Slow, Jordan. I mean, the list is long and shall be lengthened. As I say again, we're still waiting for Hanneman, the lawyer, to produce these 700 witnesses to the court to say that he has evidence that Mango rigged. 700 people, we can't find 7 yet. We're still waiting. So these matters shall be thrown out to the embarrassment of this regime, because it shows the nature of the actions and it showed us what they wanted to do. So we must realize that the arm of justice in Guyana is being strengthened, and hopefully it would become even stronger, because that's where we have some degree of hope. When fairness in the mind, as they say, law must first appear to be fair, justice must appear to be fair. So there must be the appearance of fairness, and I think that's what we're having here. But in the case of Jordan, I'm not saying that I'm overjoyed that he would have entered into arrangement or did whatever he did but I'm saying, where is the illegality?
Yes.
If you meant illegality with him, you have to bring Brassington to the table. You have to, and most of Brassington was never minister.
And Brassington was in charge of NISIL.
Exactly. So
Jordan was not in charge of NISIL.
Thank you very much. So if anyone should have been in jail based on how we reasons, Guyana should be Brassington.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Pastor Apostle Jordan here tonight, keeping me company, and we asking the question, what's wrong? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? Are we crazy? Are we crazy? The Calypsonian crazy, we say crazy! My brother, closing thoughts on this wonderful another Thursday night. Closing thoughts.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate being able to share this platform with you. And as you rightly said, I remind every Guyanese that this, or your position and mine, is not about which side we take in reference to individuals. It's about what is important for us as the people. And that happens to be good governance. Our nation must be governed better. I close with this thought. Most information about Linden. For years, we've been complaining about the state of our roads. The streets are terrible in the heart of the town. I kid you not, listeners and Dr. Hines, because of the local government elections that's approaching, for years, roads were not done. Within 5 days, at least 5 roads, 2 or 3 of them completely resurfaced. within 5 days. So we're seeing that there is an action on the part of Dharamlal, who knows that he has the authority to do things to the benefit of communities, but of course he's using it to the detriment of communities and the control of power. I'm saying to us as a people that we must be able to stand and highlight these things, not as being forms of development, but as being forms of dictatorship. Because if you could take years to fix a road and then in 5 days you do 5, something is wrong. And the time has come for us to appeal to all parties involved for there to be good and proper governance in our country. We cannot sit back as a people and allow our nation to disintegrate into a state whereby we fight each other without enjoying the benefits that for years we rightly deserve. So again, thank you, Dr. Hinds, and this is the time for us to unite as a people and unite against that which is unjust in reference to governance. I think we can all make that happen.
We can all make it happen. And before you go, Apostle, somebody from Linden called in on the Buxton Morning Time and planted something in my head. He was interpreting what's happening in Linden and the rest of Guyana, the rest of the African Guyanese community, in terms of gender relation. He said, you know, we got some men in the community. All they want is a small change.
Yeah.
All they want is a handout, and so they're getting it from the PPP. And they're then exposing their women. Some of them sending their women up front to go to the PPP and stretch their hand for a little bit of handout.
Yes.
That thing been ringing in my head all day because I had not thought about it before. Please comment on it because you're right there in Linden.
It is actually factual. We have the terminology that speaks to, they say they have to eat.
Yeah,
they got to eat. Using Guyanese vernacular, you know, I got to eat the food, I got to eat. And so they've reduced themselves now to saying that they are not supporters of the PPP. What they are is they're seeking to eat. So Jaggi and others know that, and they're playing the game pretty well with them. So they're giving them little handouts here and there, keeping them at what Chetty said, which would be the lower end of the social ladder, of the economic ladder. They don't mind being there because in their view, at least they're better off than others. And I'm seeing a case whereby women are indeed being pushed to the forefront and they're being sent out there to have a chance to interact with the big boys. To what extent it is, I don't know. I will not be. I hope I won't have to say it here. But it seems as if our women in the society are up for sale, up for grabs, because they have to bring something back home to lazy men, to weak men. But I hope that those men can hear and repent tonight to change the way you think, which repentance means, and to process differently. We have the right to enjoy, it, not hoping to enjoy it. It is a right of every Guyanese to enjoy this country, and it should not come at the expense of your integrity or your woman.
Apostle London, and I don't know the brother, but I call him Beat and Teach. You all have filled me up tonight, because it has made some things clearer for me. It has made some things clearer for me. Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank
you. And to your audience, as usual, I say thanks. I say thanks and thanks and thanks, because we got to do this together. Sometimes people want to do everything at the same time. Sometimes people want you to be African and multiracial at the same time. Sometimes people want you to fight the PNC and fight the PPP at the same time. Sometimes they want you to fight Exxon and fight the Guyana government at the same time. Sometimes you have to prioritize the struggle. Today I fight with Africans. I fight with Africans. Today I fight on the side of the opposition. I fight with Africans today not because I am anti-Indian. I fight with the opposition today not because I am non-Guyanese or anti-Guyanese. I fight with Africans because their voices are more feeble than others. I fight on the opposition side because that's where some space is for me to fight. But ultimately, for me, Guyana is one beautiful country, as David Rudder says, where the Ganges and the Nile and the Orinoco must survive together. I know I will be open to attacks by Indians. Why are you only concerned about Africans? I know I will be attacked by PPP people that I am PNC. I know I will be attacked by Jaganites that I'm Burnhamite. That is the lot in a country like Guyana. But I stand resolute. I am part of the 5-man party. I fight today on one side of the road because I want the road to be leveled. I fight today in the ranks of African Guyanese because they're hurting more than others. But ultimately, it's about our Guyana. It's about our Caribbean. It's about our independence journey. And it's about the promised land that the mind benders and the politicians have messed up. Yes, you can push me in a corner, but I am bigger than that corner. You can take what I say in a moment and use it as my universal truth. But history does not lie. We are what we are. And that's the way it's gonna be. We come in peace. That lovely brother tonight, Apostle London, believe in peace so that we can come back tomorrow and continue to march. We are marching, we are marching. We are marching to Zion. We are marching to that beautiful shore. We're going to get there. The court is regaining its voice. The journalists are retaking their space. Let my people go. Tell all the Pharaoh, let my people go.